welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to kick off the month of September with a book video because in my mind, it's already spooky season, right? I put up a majority of my fall decor yesterday, but now I just need the weather to actually cool down so we can match, you know, like the season. It's only September, but I want to be able to wear my sweaters and, you know, enjoy just cold, rainy days, all that fun stuff. But anyways, for today's video, I thought I would talk about the books that I have read so far this year. Now, this isn't gonna seem like a really long list for some people that are like extremely avid readers, but for me, the past like year or so, or probably since the pandemic, honestly, I've started reading a lot more than I used to. I feel like I've been going through a lot of books this year, which has been kind of fun. Like sometimes there's not enough hours in the day to read as much as you would like. These are gonna be my book suggestions, or not even suggestions, just books that I've read so far, books I would recommend, not recommend, all those kinds of things. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more, as it helps me out a big deal. Or a great deal. Here, we'll do the ghost mug. I dusted the cobwebs off of my Kindle, and I have been reading on my Kindle nonstop. And I was always the person that romanticized paperback books. Like, there's nothing better than a book, you know, e-books and Kindle, it's not the same. But I'll tell you, it is way easier to stay up late and read on a Kindle without like waking up your husband or something. And then also just, I'm able to put it on the treadmill and read it. I can just set it somewhere while I'm cooking dinner. So I really like the Kindle. I misspoke. I love it. There's also this really, really cute Kindle cover case I found on Etsy that I really want to get and I just haven't yet. I'll post a picture or like I'll link it below if you want to check it out. But it's so cute. Like, it's designed to look like a classic hardcover book. And I just think that's amazing. And I still don't have a case for my Kindle, so that's on my list. Anyway, first book I read was Elvish by S.G. Prince. She and I are, I guess I would say, internet friends on Instagram. I don't remember how I found her, but she used to live in Seattle, and I live in Washington, obviously. So we were just kind of talking about what it's like to be an author and to self-publish or just to publish and all that stuff. So it was really fun to get to know her. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't even read anything by her. And I will be honest, I am typically not a fantasy reader. She's a fantasy author. So I read her book and I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And it honestly reminded me a lot of like Lord of the Rings. It had some like tones that reminded me of it, which is like Kalani's favorite thing in the world. So I was like, you would actually like Elvish. And honestly, when I was reading it, I could totally see it adapted as a TV show for like Amazon Prime. Like, that's literally what I thought of when I was reading it. But it was a really good book, and it's a trilogy, I believe. And I haven't read the others yet, but the first one I read this year, or that I have on here, I might have read paperback books before this one, but I can't think of any right now, so I'm just going off of what I've seen on my Kindle because it's the easiest for me to remember. So Elvish. Also, by the way, I'll have all these books linked down below, as always. I always have everything linked down below for you guys if you want to check it out. Second on the list, and this might be a hot take. I have a couple hot takes in this list, but this might be a hot take, but I started reading the Atlas 6 and I added it to a did not finish pile. It just wasn't for me. I didn't particularly care for it. I just felt like there was too much going on and it was too chaotic for me to follow. I don't know how many chapters I got into it, but I just felt like it bounced around too much for my taste, so didn't finish it, didn't really care for it. I think it's hard with books like that that are so hyped up that sometimes they can be overly hyped up and they might not meet what you're expecting that it's gonna be. Does that make sense? It was just so overly hyped, or just so hyped up, that it was almost kind of set up to fail, at least for me, you know what I mean? Because sometimes there's like books or movies that are like, oh my god, you have to see it, you have to read it, it's amazing, and then you're like, really? Like, that's honestly how I felt with Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I don't know why people praise that book. I couldn't stand it. So yeah, I finished that one though, painstakingly so, but I just did not care for that one at all. Next one on the list, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I finally caved. Book talk, everybody's talking about A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I'm just like, I don't really like, I'm not a fantasy reader. I'm really not. But I read Elvish and then I was like, everybody's talking about how good this is. You can't put it down. You know, like, they'd be like, I'd give my left kidney in order to read it and experience it for the first time again. And I'm like, okay. So bought the book, could not put it down. And it was so ridiculous. It got me so excited about reading again because I could not remember a time when I was so invested in a storyline that I was like this obsessed with reading. It was all I could talk about with my coworkers. I had that Kindle everywhere, and Kalani was even just kind of like, you were so invested in this. I had it, I'd be boiling noodles, I'd be cooking dinner, I'd be doing laundry, my Kindle was right there, and I would be reading while doing everything. I was so obsessed with it. And not just the first book, I finished the whole series. So the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, is heaven sent. It is a gift from God. That is like one of the best books. I could not put it down. And these books are like 600 to 700 pages. So I was so proud of myself and impressed with myself for not having been as avid of a reader as I would have liked to be lately. And then I just started reading these so fast, and A Court of Mist and Fury is unbelievably amazing. A Court of Wings and Ruin I really liked. It dragged a little bit because it was mainly just about war, so I was like, it's not my, favorite. A Court of Frost and Starlight. We love Christmas, okay? So if we're gonna do a little mini book about Rhys and Feyre, and it's Christmas time, and Valeris, stunning. Loved it. 10 out of 10. It's a nice little filler book, not a whole lot is going on, but I feel like for the heaviness of A Court of Wings and Ruin being about war, it was a nice book to follow that. I finally finished A Court of Silver Flames, least favorite book of the whole series. I think it was just too much, too graphic, too explicit for my taste for certain things, and I finally finished it, but it definitely wasn't my favorite. I just really wish that we were continuing with like Feyre's story. So really good series though. The first two books you cannot put down. Third one's a little bit hard. Fourth one is great. Fifth one I didn't care for, but great series. I'm glad that I read it and started reading it because it was great. So fingers crossed for another book or the next book, which there probably will be. Now, here we are, which, okay, I feel like, it's September, that's all that you've read? Look, I have a job. We just got married, and somehow it's already September. Time just keeps flying the older that I get, but I am reading a whole, hello, I skipped over what the hell? I skipped over 2 books. There we go, okay. Another author that I found is Hannah Lee Kidder, and I found her on YouTube. If you guys haven't checked out her channel, you definitely should. I can link her channel in the description box below. But she has 2 collections of short stories and poems. One is called Little Birds, and then the other one is called Starlight. In my opinion, I preferred Little Birds over Starlight. I just felt like, so it's hard to review books. You have to give like a really fair, unbiased review, because with Starlight, there are warnings saying like, hey, some of the poems or stories in this book are pretty mature. And so I knew that going into it, and so I can't say that I didn't like it because of that, because I knew the nature of the stories. Personally, I just liked Little Birds better. They're both really well written, incredibly well written. I think she's a very talented writer, but I would definitely read those. I think I really liked those. They were really nice to just kind of read because they're so small. So I feel like if you finish a big series like A Court of Thorns and Roses or something, these are really good kinds of books to use as like a transitional time when you just need a little breather from a really intense narrative. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. So that was another one that I found, really liked it. Okay, now we're going to what I got going on right now. So I made a TikTok, which if you guys don't follow me on TikTok, you definitely should. I'm having way too much fun on it for my own good. But it's Chloe Mason Author. Same as my Instagram. If you want to give those a follow, means a lot to me. So the next book I have 3 books that I just bought all in like one day. But I went to TikTok, I asked the fellow book talk community, I was like, okay, I finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, and now I don't know what to do with my life. What should I read next? Do any of you guys have book recommendations? And a lot of people just said, reread the series. And I was like, well, emotionally, I'm gonna need a minute. And also, I never reread things. It's not my style, I don't like it. So one person recommended From Blood and Ash. And I got the first book. I have not started reading it yet. I kind of want to read something different in between, big back-to-back like fantasy series like that. I want to read something different. So I finally got my first Colleen Hoover book. It Ends With Us. So I'm about a quarter of the way through. Hot take, it's very cheesy. I'm reading it because I want to say that I've read one because everybody's talking about her, saying you have to read it, blah, blah, blah. And again, I don't want to be like disrespectful to the author, but it's just not for me. I feel like it is cheesy, and I feel like men and women don't talk to each other like that, and I feel like it's just going by way too fast. The timeline to me doesn't really add up because it's just like, and then all this stuff happens. So I'm like, I just don't, it's not my thing. I'm still gonna read it. And then I'll probably start From Blood and Ash, or after it ends with us, I think I'm going to read, because it's only 87 pages. And okay, I really want to pronounce this right. It's The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, 87-page book. You might laugh at me, but I went through that whole Eddie Munson thing, okay? So if you get it, you get it. But I love Joseph Quinn as a human being. I think he's great. And someone finally had asked him at a, I think it was Canada Comic-Con, what his favorite book was, and it was The Prophet. So he says it's a spiritual book, and I'm really excited to read it because I think whenever I admire someone, whether it be like, you know, a celebrity or whoever, I really like to read their favorite book because I feel like it's really cool to get to know someone through a literary sense. Like when I was binging Schitt's Creek for the first time, I fell in love with Dan Levy because he's also a wonderful human, and he, in an interview, had recommended a Joan Didion book, so I got that because I want to hear, you know, especially for him, as brilliant of a writer as Dan Levy is, I wanted to, you know, see what inspires him and what is his favorite book. And for Joseph Quinn, it's The Prophet, which I think is really telling too when he was kind of explaining it. That is what I have on my list right now. That is what I've read so far this year. And then as far as my own book updates, as you guys know, I released Hold the Foam back in June of this year. I really wanted to try to push out another book before this year was over, which has been a little difficult because it's not necessarily like I have writer's block again. Look, right after I finished Hold the Foam, I had already had another book idea, and I'm halfway through with that one, but then I just stopped because I believed it was too cheesy. I didn't think it had enough substance. I think it's a really good rough draft, but not entirely what I want it to be before I release it. So I have put that one on the back burner for now until I, you know, have an epiphany of how I want to adapt it to my liking. And then right now I am working on a sequel to Hold the Foam. I always said that it was going to be a standalone book, but things can change. And again, I feel like Hold the Foam is similar to like Until Seattle, where you already have these characters created, you already have a storyline, and it's much easier, in my opinion, to continue that narrative rather than just start something new like I was with the other book. So I'm working on a sequel. I really, really, really wanted to have it out in the fall because this is my favorite time of year. All my books are set in the fall time, but I am only human, so I'm trying not to put an intense amount of pressure on myself. Like I said, Kalani and I did just get married, so we weren't even home. We've had a lot of planning before then, and then we have a ton of stuff going on this fall and trips and events planned, which is really exciting, but also, you know, I need to enjoy life. So I will say with any book updates, they're all going to be on Patreon first, well in advance. So if you guys want to check out my Patreon, definitely check that out. That's where I'm gonna like tease stuff, post a bunch of things that only Patreon subscribers will see. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.